New York Mayor Zoran Mamdani's $70 million plan to open city-owned grocery stores is getting a lot of scrutiny. For example,
we're going to call him a Democratic Socialist. On Monday, stands up to announce New York City's second city-owned grocery store. $70 million in taxpayer money, which is amazing because Mamdani just announced that the city's broke and that they're having to raid the rainy day fund and they're going to have to raise taxes.
Other chains are about that. 3 to 5 million is the most that I could find to be built in as little as 6 weeks. Again, these are grocery stores we're talking about. And yet Mamdani's government-run grocery store built on land the city already owns is going to cost $30 million and at a minimum take 3 years. Does that not tell you a problem right off the top?
The city is attempting to offset some of that by not allowing government-run grocers to sell hot food, alcohol, and cigarettes, where smaller corner stores make most of their money.
Operators of bodegas, grocers, and convenience stores uniting at City Hall against Mayor Mamdani's plan to open city-owned markets that could undercut their prices on staples. Frank Garcia chairs the Multicultural Business Coalition at the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. He's considering a lawsuit to stop it.
They're using our tax dollars against our members.
Luna says that once it opens, he anticipates losing 30 to 40% of his customers because he cannot compete with a nationalized grocery store, which doesn't have to pay property taxes or utilities and has access to his hard-earned tax dollars.
No way. There's no way we can be open. If I lose 30%, I'm in trouble.
All right, so Mamdani officials, they admit that New York City owned markets, got 5 of them going in, 1 for each of the boroughs. It's going to cost $70 million, all subsidized by the taxpayers of New York City. So these 5 markets, they won't have features like butchers, hot food, discounted soda, or really anything that people are going to want to go in and buy. And they've got this, what they call a core basket of goods. Are you really going to go in there and everything else is just kind of like, This is how they're touting affordable groceries. As critics rail, plan is destined for failure. You mean like the 7 subsidized grocery stores in Chicago, the South and West Side, that closed 2 days ago? You mean like those?
Will set prices for this core set of goods at 30% below typical retail prices. No exceptions, no gimmicks. The same lasts for the entire month. Here's how it will work. Once a month, our 5 city-run grocery stores will set prices for this core set of goods at 30% below typical retail prices. No exceptions, no gimmicks. The savings will last for the entire month. That means no weekly fluctuations nor sticker shock at the checkout line.
Okay, so that's how Mamdani says this is going to work. Subsidized until it's not. 30% off. So don't you kind of need to know which things you're going to go get at the grocery store, especially when only 4 of them are discounted 30%? Does this make any sense at all? I am no small business grocery store dude, but I talk to my guys at the mini mart a lot. And I talk to the folks and managers at Trader Joe's a lot. And I used to talk to ones at QFC. I'd ask questions and just, how's this going? Why wasn't this product? Well, I couldn't make enough money off of it, and it was iffy whether we'd get it in or not. So we cut it and we're going with something else. People want consistency. They want to know that when they go into the store, they're going to be getting what they want, whether it's expensive or not. Because you go into Whole Foods, whole paycheck, yeah, it's expensive. Everything is super expensive. Going to Trader Joe's, all right, I know I can get this, and this all for $1.99, right? $2.99, whatever it might be. You know what you get. But in Mamdani's world, it's on a rotating basis, and we don't know, from month to month. But we've got this core basket of goods. Mayor Zoran Mamdani's Economic Development Corporation admitted this week that his city-owned grocery stores might not have all the items you'd find in a typical supermarket. And people were saying literally straight up, so it's Trader Joe's. We'll read about that in a second. Because Trader Joe's doesn't have, I mean, you go to look for shaving cream. Well, right, they've actually got shaving cream, meaning you push it out. It's not aerosol, right? Because that's terrible for the environment. We don't want that. So you've got this kind of weird orange shaving cream. It actually works really good, and I really like it. And I would have never used it before because I like that aerosol. I like that thing foams out, put it on your face, just, makes you look like Santa. It's epic. 5 stores, which are expected to cost upwards of $70 million, will likely not include hot food items or butchers. EDC officials revealed during a board meeting Thursday. It may not have all the items, but it's going to be like a typical grocery store. Okay. But otherwise, if it had all the items, if it had a bakery, if it had a butcher, if it had cheap soda, if it had then it would be a normal grocery store. It's going to be just like a normal grocery store. It's laughable. These are laughable comparisons to reality, right? Because meanwhile, literally, and we'll talk about it in a second, we'll go through it, you got grocery stores closing down because they were city subsidized, and now they're not because they're closed. Everybody shoplifted from them. They had enough safety events. They weren't making any money. They were a loser. Closed. And that's what Mamdani stores will be like, right? That's exactly what they'll be like. Bach also echoed at Mamdani's assertion that only certain items in the stores would be discounted. We did a lot of analysis of what people buy in terms of their everyday goods. Even if there are a lot of people who buy soda, we're not discounting soda. Okay. All right. So you can get about half a dozen things at your store that are cheap. What about the rest? Is this enough of an incentive to go to Mamdani's grocery stores? What if you got a store that's like super close to you and it's better? You know what I mean? You don't have, okay. So you got 30% off eggs. Eggs were $6. Now they're $4. Are you going to go there for that $2 savings on 5 items or whatever it is? Probably not. You're probably not, because you need a whole bunch of stuff. And do you want to go to 2 stores? I don't. I hate going to more than one store. And that's literally the reason I could have walked from my Trader Joe's next door into Walgreens, I think it is, which is, they took over from somebody. I don't even know. You know what I mean? All the drugstores now are like, they're all big chains, and you don't know what you're getting, and you walk in and it's just immediately a terrible experience. Big bright lights and shoplifting cameras all over, and you're literally on camera the minute you walk in, and they've got like 2 people for a 100,000 square foot store. You're like, okay, and then half the shelves are just empty, and you're like, all right, are they going to put some stuff in those shelves, or what are we doing here? Don't know. But in order for me to avoid that kind of thing, I'll buy some kind of wonky product at Trader Joe's and try it. That's just me, to avoid going to Walgreens next door, because you can't get normal stuff at Trader Joe's. You can't get like your bathroom stuff and cleaning stuff. I've actually started buying cleaning product in like a little green thing. It's super handy. They've got general cleaning, and this is a Trader Joe's product. And I use those on the boat. I've got a handful of those on the boat. They worked really well. And they don't have bleach in them. But yeah, you're kind of like, all right, this seems to clean pretty well. Let's go with this. Let's do this. Can't get everything you want at Trader Joe's, but you can get enough of what you need where you go there. Oh my gosh, this is just destined to fail, said one user on X. Anyone with experience with the grocery store there? This is such a bad idea. Yeah, it seems like they've taken bits and pieces of what would be good in a grocery store and kind of Frankenstein them together. And they've got this. They've got these bits and piece concepts that we have known won't work, because we've literally got stores closing down right now that are subsidized already, and they're gone out of business. Another ex-user likened the concept to another popular grocery store chain. This is Trader Joe's, basically, they wrote. You know what I like about Trader Joe's? They have a really great selection of beer, but it's warm, and it's because of efficiency. They don't have a massive cooler to keep all this. They've got just a tiny little section. You know what? I'm okay with that. It's like, all right, it's $2 cheaper than the mini mart across the street. And I don't have to go to the mini mart across the street. It's warm. All right, I'll take it home. I have a fridge. I can cool it down. You know, if you need a cold beer that bad, I mean, sometimes you do, right? But that means you just haven't planned ahead. All right, you ran out, so you got to do what? Oh, you can't go to TJ's. You got to go to Chevron and be charged more. On the campaign trail, Mamdani had voted to open one city-owned grocery store in each borough, claiming that he would use the power of government to lower prices and make it easier for New Yorkers to put food on the table. All right, so instead of saying use the power of government, how about you fleece the taxpayer to lower prices? What about that? If he would have said that, I believe that. You're going to take taxpayer money and subsidize this bad boy, therefore it's going to be cheaper. Okay, all right, yep, I can believe that. But this whole power of government, and that's his thing, right? We need more government in our lives. No, I don't think so. I need less. Yeah, you need less regulation. Yeah, you need less oversight. Less is more. Living on less and liking it more. It was a book my mom was always reading in the 70s. Peter somebody. At our stores, eggs will be cheaper, bread will be cheaper, but nothing else. I said that part. Grocery shopping will no longer be an unsolvable equation, he also claimed. You know what? If nothing else is going to get discounted but a handful of things, it only does a tiny little bit to your equation. But he can say, what he'll say is, we've got cheaper eggs. We've got cheaper bread. And that will be true. But it's only cheaper because your own tax money is making it cheaper. Is that really cheaper? No. Only capitalism gives enough incentive for competitors to figure out a way to make it cheaper. Government? What are the, it's like the 8 words you hate to hear. I'm from the government and I'm here to help, right? And you're like, no, go away. Nearly 8 months into his tenure, only 2 out of the 5 promised supermarkets have locations. Not built. Locations identified. And then we get into we get into this whole thing about, where is that? If the government opened a big grocery store next to your bodega, what would you do? Host Martha McClellan asked. And then Commie co-chair Gustavo Gordillo replied, if one publicly owned grocery store that brings prices down in the neighborhood is enough to put someone out of business, maybe they shouldn't have been in that business in the first place. That is a statement by a true communist, is it not? Because you're basically subsidizing the one store with taxpayer money. There's no way an unsubsidized store can compete. It's a no-go. It's a non-factor. But, let's pretend. Meanwhile, in Chicago, 7 Save-A-Lot stores shut down across Chicago's south and west sides. 7 Save-A-Lot stores across Chicago closed. It's the same old story, to be honest with you. It's just not here nationally when it comes down to black communities. It does happen in black communities a lot, but it also happens in white communities. It happens here in Seattle. And you know what? Leadership said, corporate abandonment. These corporations, we need to hold them accountable. And the corporations are like, hey, you robbed us blind. You had a bunch of whacked out drug addicts in the store, in the parking lot. It wasn't safe. We weren't making enough money. We just decided to close the bad boy. And that's what continually happens. And if they can't make money, sorry. And these stores were propped up with 13, here it goes. Closures come 4 years after the city of Chicago announced it would give $13.5 million in taxpayer financing to Yellow Banana as part of a roughly $26 million deal to buy and renovate 6 stores in the south and west sides. So you got $26 million to buy and renovate 6 stores in the south and west sides, and they go out of business inside of 2 years. Mamdani's going to spend $70 on 5, and he's only going to discount a core basket of goods. I have a bridge in the desert to sell you. Here's the stores. They're on the south side and west side, which we know those are, in real estate, we call those affordable neighborhoods. They're tougher areas. Let's be honest. They're tougher areas. Higher concentration of black population, simply put. And so for these to be closing down in these communities it's not good, because you are leaving these folks without the ability to buy groceries, at a normal grocery store. Save a Lot and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson are blaming the closures on federal funding cuts and changes to programs like SNAP benefits, which doesn't make any sense because the changes in the SNAP benefits have just recently happened. The big, beautiful bill, and these stores have been in business XYZ. It hasn't been long enough for these to have an impact. I heard the federal government had a little hand in this particular one. Blame Orange Man bad, right? Blame Trump. Everything's his fault. But there's no way. There is no way that is the case. These stores were all being robbed blind. They had about a bunch of whacked out nut jobs in them. And basically, management said, we're not making money. You got all this stuff going on. We know we're creating a food desert, but we were here because other stores couldn't make a go of it. We were subsidized, but this isn't going to work. Closed. And that's what they did on Saturday. They literally just, because you know what? The negative press from staying open and how much money they lost that the taxpayers would have had to basically admit to would have been horrific enough where the pushback was worse than closing the stores. So 2 days ago on Saturday, they closed these 7 stores. Just done, gone. But here we've got J.B. Pritzker, a billionaire, talking about, I put an initiative in several years ago called the Illinois Grocery Initiative, and what it does is literally help people start grocery stores. What about an initiative to keep people from stealing from them and have store security such that there's very little shoplifting? What about that? What about an initiative for that? Because it doesn't seem like they have a problem opening the grocery stores. It seems like they have a problem keeping them open. And that's what Mamdani's deal will be. Mamdani's deal will be so one-sided that it just won't make any sense whatsoever. Let's keep going. 7 grocery stores face possible closure this weekend. City officials say their priorities is for the stores to remain open. Always is, but that's not the case. So, SNAP cuts. Yet a ribbons cutting and grand reopening ceremony took place after the city gave Yellow Banana $13.5 million, and then they biffed it. They couldn't make a go of it. Just no go. Sad. But you know what? This is what happens when you're running a business in an area that doesn't take public safety, allows shoplifting to happen. Because on top of that, even grocery stores and stores and restaurants in areas that don't have these factors, shoplifting and safety issues, they're having a tough time making a go of it because everything has gotten so expensive. All their costs have gone through the roof. So you add that to, extensive shoplifting and extensive safety issues. It's not hard to call which stores close. The ones bleeding out, those get closed. This will become a food desert. Finding grocery stores in this neighborhood is already hard as it is. Okay, I think there's enough people that recognize, hey, you can't rob the store blind and expect it to stay open. There's enough people that recognize that. But what do? This has been a way of life for criminals, especially drug criminals, to basically get a little bit of money to get their next fix. So what are you going to do? Yeah. Interesting, right? We keep going here. Tips and hot links. 7 Save-A-Lots closed. Because the big story was, will the government step in? And the answer was, no, the government will not step in. And they didn't. They just let them go. Let them go. And I think that's what happens with our Mamdani store. Hey, we had a good run. We tried real hard. We had some cheap stuff. We made eggs cheap. We made, a loaf of white bread, which has virtually zero nutritional value. We made that cheaper. But at the end of the day, the stars were aligned against us, and Orange Man bad, he did it. He closed the store down. And it's because it didn't have a business model that made sense, because there's no incentive to run the store efficiently and make a profit. So unless you're doing that, I don't see the point, because this whole subsidy thing, you're making people think, because without that incentive to keep things as dialed in as humanly possible, there's no way a store that runs on super tiny margins, which all grocery stores do, a few %, can make it and have it make sense and, be a poster child for the taxpayers. Hey, we're using your money responsibly. Instead, it's going to be, well, we only lost $45 million in Q3, but that's good because we lost $55 million in Q2. Things are looking up, right? And they just continually bleed out money until taxpayers get upset enough and they're like, shut that bastard down, because this is stupid. This is a stupid use of our money. And that's when we go to, as critics rail, plan is destined for failure because it's never worked elsewhere. Why would it work in New York City? It won't. It won't. And I'll podcast it when it shuts down. Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be a glorious day, right? Glorious day. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell. I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for joining. Catch up then. Bye for now.